This is the Dean Obeidallah Show, exclusively on SiriusXM's Progress.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Tuesday, September 20th. Joining us a minute early. Very happy to have him on. You know him, you love him. The right-wing people throw their glass at their TV when he's on, though. Elie Mystal, the nation's justice correspondent, author of the New York Times best-selling book, Allow Me to Retort, A Black Guy's Guide to the Constitution, also an attorney. Elie, great to see you, my friend, taking a few minutes off from trolling the right just by being who you are.
Oh my God, I've really bothered them this week. I mean, like, look, as you're a guy like me, you understand you're going to get the occasional Breitbart story, the occasional Fox story, the occasional death threat, the occasional, scary piece of mail to your house. You kind of expect all of that. But boy, this week I really got under their skin by calling into question the legality of their inhumane fascist immigration sending around the country stunt.
Well, you went to Harvard Law, right? And so did Ron DeSantis went to Harvard Law. I don't know if you saw him in the halls there. Here, I got to play. This is really Ron DeSantis from a press conference defending using taxpayer dollars from Florida to defend them. And this is real. This is not edited. And we just took the question out, but he's asked about it. So let's do clip number 6, please.
Because most of them are intending to come to Florida. They are coming to Florida. We are taking them from Florida to sanctuary jurisdictions. But the issue is, if you want to do it effectively, you just can't police if you have 2 people in a car and there's 100 different cars that come in a different week because it looks like your car or anybody else. And so we've put a lot of emphasis in this. There's been a lot of investigation to try to figure out how this is going.
What is the one car, your car? Is that a Harvard Law thing? What does that mean? That wasn't edited. That was really what he said.
You like guys like Ron DeSantis at Harvard Law because they really lower the curve. They make it a lot easier to do well at that school because that was legal gobbledygook. Now, Dean, let's start here. You're right to point out that we both went to Harvard Law School, and as much as we want to joke about whether or not Ron went to any classes, he did learn a really important thing at Harvard Law School that I also learned. If you're rich and white, it doesn't matter. Okay? Like, Ron DeSantis is operating under the theory that he can get away with illegalities because he is a powerful white man. And he understands that powerful white men can do things that other people can't get away with. So in this situation, we have, from my read of the statute, and I've actually been trying to be somewhat careful about this in terms of like giving people false hope. All right, there are lots of things that Republicans come up with that are sneaky, that are slimy, that are disgusting, that are bigoted, that are morally wrong, that are not illegal. We can call them legal loopholes. Sure. We can think about the fact that, for many years in this country, bigotry was not simply approved; it was encouraged. There are reasons why some of their stunts are not illegal, but a lot of their stunts are not illegal. So when people have been saying like, "Oh, this is a clear-cut case of human trafficking," I understand that colloquially. Yes, colloquially, right. This is human trafficking, but in terms of how the specific statute is written, the human trafficking statute, both at the federal and the state level, it's not true to Hoyle human trafficking. It's not. It's a closer case about human smuggling, but where I do think you find some illegality is when you look at our kidnapping statutes, because and what should be kind of common sense to most people, you can't pick up. You can't pick up a person and say you're going to take them to California and instead take them to New York, right? You can't pick up a hitchhiker and say like, "Oh, are you going my way?" And you can say yes, and then actually you take him to your basement. All right, you just can't do that. That is kidnapping. Right. On TV, I made the analogy. If I pick up a bunch of teenagers and I say, "Get into my van, we're going to Disney World," and I instead take them to Busch Gardens, that is kidnapping, right? And so what DeSantis did in the specific Martha's Vineyard situation, as far as all of the available evidence suggests, is that he falsely induced these people to get on a plane with promises of sending them to Boston, with promises of expediting their work visas, with promises of housing, and literally with a fake brochure printed out, as far as we know, by the government, with a fake brochure promising cash assistance, and then dropped 48 of them off on Martha's Vineyard, which is not Boston, and where no work visas or cash assistance were waiting for them. Now that is kidnapping, and the fact that that is so kind of obviously a legal problem is why you heard DeSantis do his double, triple talk. If you got one card and then you get 100 cards, I mean, then you just got too many cards. Like that's why he's backpedaling now, because what he did wasn't just morally reprehensible, it was also potentially illegal.
And he's being investigated now by Sheriff Javier Salazar in Texas, and I'll play a clip in a second. But look, we've had a good number of Ukrainian refugees come to this country seeking asylum. I don't notice them trying to bus or fly white people from Ukraine around the country. Those are asylum-seeking people. Why is it only Hispanic, Latino? If they could find Muslim, if they could find Afghan or Palestinian or Pakistani one, they would do the same thing. But I don't see them busing. I never see white people getting off those buses or white people getting off the planes. Why do you think that is?
You notice that, huh, Dean? You notice that Ukrainians come in from all different places in this country. Nobody sends them to Chicago, where there's a strong Ukrainian. That doesn't seem to happen for some reason.
Right.
I wonder why. What's also noticed, and other people have made this point, I am just echoing. You also notice that DeSantis did this to Venezuelans. The 48 people were mainly Venezuelans. He didn't do it to Cubans. There are Cubans that are showing up on the shores of Florida today. Ron DeSantis ain't sending those people nowhere. Why? Because Cubans are a key part of the Republican voting base in Florida. So Ron DeSantis is going to treat Cubans well, but Venezuelans, Mexicans, people from other parts of Latin America, people from other parts of South America. Notice how I just said 2 different continents, people just out there. DeSantis and his MAGA ilk will treat them quite poorly, on the theory that it excites the white base, it titillates the MAGA base, and the Democrats won't stop.
And what you said there at the end is a point that I keep trying to repeat to people. You know, the idea of cruelty is the point. That should be a comma, not a period. Cruelty is a point, comma, because it makes the GOP base happy. Like, you need that. It's not like Ron DeSantis is he might be sociopathic, but it's not like he is Hannibal Lecter and doing it for his own benefit, like eating someone's face. He's doing this because it makes the GOP base happy, and that makes it even more alarming. I want to play Sheriff Salazar because there's something he said yesterday. He's the one that opened an investigation. That the mainstream media, they're not ignoring it. They just don't probably think it's important. I think it's vitally important to talk about all 48 people were here legally awaiting their asylum application, because people on the right are like, they shouldn't have been in the country at all anyway. I'm like, no, they were. But thankfully the sheriff said it. And I wish the corporate media would talk about that, because it undercuts a big talking point on the right. So let's play clip number 4, please.
What infuriates me the most about this case is that here we have 48 people that are already on hard times, right? They are here legally in our country at that point. They have every right to be where they are. And I believe that they were preyed upon. Somebody came from out of state, preyed upon these people, lured them with promises of a better life, which is what they were absolutely looking for, and with the knowledge that they were going to cling to whatever hope they could be offered for a better life, to just be exploited and hoodwinked into making this trip to Florida and then onward to Martha's Vineyard for what I believe to be nothing more than political posturing.
Look, I don't watch Fox News, but I can guarantee they've not mentioned the people there, at least not in prime time, were here legally in the country. Because they wanted to be like, because on my Facebook page, oh my God, they're swarming it. The right. I don't even know why. I don't post for them. I don't post to troll them. I just post for my friends and my people who like the show. And they're like, they weren't here legally. I mean, no, I kept correcting, no, they were. And then they said, well, they shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be allowed to be here. I'm like, well, you want to change federal law. That's a different thing. But legally, under our law, they have every right to be here. They made the application that they had to at the port of entry, and now they're awaiting their court case. That's how federal law works, folks. If you don't like federal law, go do another January 6th, you morons. But this is the law, so that's the way it's got to be.
Don't threaten them with a good time. The there are a number of legal issues here that I'm so glad that you're pointing this out, because it's worth teasing out here. Let's start at the beginning, right? If you listen to right-wing media, if you listen to what they say on Fox and on Breitbart and those kinds of places, they make Venezuela sound like the eighth pit of hell. Right? They make Venezuela sound like it's a really bad place right now. So these Venezuelans were here credibly claiming asylum, escaping political and economic torment. All right, that's the claim. They were here in San Antonio, receiving services in San Antonio to forward their asylum claim. Asylum seekers are legal. I know that is a difficult concept for white supremacists to get their minds around, but asylum seekers are legal. There are international human rights standards of how you're supposed to treat asylum seekers. So these asylum seekers were here legally. We're here under both legal U.S. law and legal international practices. They were in San Antonio, and then somebody, we don't yet know who, came and, as the sheriff said, lured them out of Texas to Florida so they could be participants in this DeSantis stunt. Note, again, and I say this is important, note that DeSantis did not do this to Cubans in Florida. He wanted to be part of it, because Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, he's been doing this for a couple of months. He's been putting people on buses to Washington, D.C., to New York City. And you will note, Dean, that while I am not a fan of that policy, and I understand how it's the same kind of same problems in terms of the bigotry and the weaponizing of humans, but I haven't come on your show or anybody else's show and said that what Abbott is doing is illegal. I haven't said that it's kidnapping, because based on the evidence that we have, he is inducing these people through truthful means. Whether or not it's right for him to do it, there's no evidence that he's lied to these people yet. But DeSantis, who wants to be president someday, wanted to get into the game, didn't want to do it to his own voters in Florida, and so that's where he went to Texas to try to lure some Venezuelans. So that is like point number one. These people were here illegally. Were here legally. Point number two, they were lured out of where they were getting services to Florida by DeSantis to be sent to Martha's Vineyard as part of this political stunt, and they were lured falsely. Just before I came on the air, I was just finishing reading. In addition to this sheriff who has started the investigation, there's a class action suit launched by some of the victims of this now against DeSantis, and the allegations in that class action suit. Again, these people were lured. They said that they called the doe. We don't know exactly which agents they were, right? But these kind of outside agents lured them with like free food at McDonald's, things that might have been helpful to them, and then provided them with fake brochures. And the brochures are the fake brochures. And this is where I say, like, DeSantis just got sloppy. Like, if there is any evidence, right, that he personally participated in the printing out or the ordering or printing out of these fake brochures, I mean, that's like go directly to jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200, right? Like that is just bonkers, right? He left a paper trail. And these fake brochures, which promised, like I said,
it says 8 months cash, 8 months cash assistance. I read it earlier for people. Assistance with housing, food, clothing, job placement, registering children for school. That's all in writing. Like, you don't put it in writing. Trump doesn't even put stuff in writing. He knows better. Now, Ron DeSantis didn't write this. The company he hired wrote this. So there might be that he might get lucky with a buffer there, because he was on Fox News last night saying everyone had to sign a consent form and we did all the good things. But so I played earlier for you, Ron DeSantis going, the cars are coming. That was like a few days ago. Now he's had a few days to think about it and come up with a good defense, right? Here he is today, asked. So here it is after a few days, Harvard Law, with honors, I should add, graduate. So that first was that babbling 1 car, 2 car. Here he is now. I'm not even kidding. This is today at a press conference, and has some time to work it through. And now here's his best argument. Clip number 7, please.
The problem is we're not seeing mass movements of them into Florida. So you end up with a car with maybe 2. And if we know that that's illegal and there's someone that's kind of smuggling, then committing crime, then you can do arrest. There have been drug seizures. But that's not effective enough to stop the mass migration, but it's just coming in onesie twosies. So we've had people on the border for last summer. We've done a lot of intelligence, and everyone down there will say between a third and 40% of the people coming across are seeking to end up in Florida. And so we have to go and figure out, okay, who are those people likely to be? And if you can do it at the source and divert to sanctuary jurisdictions, the chance they end up in Florida is much less.
The onesie twosies really stood out to me there. That was, again,
I hadn't heard that sound, Dean. What
this
that
is
sound,
the Minority Report. It's
what that
preemptive.
sound is Ron DeSantis saying, on top of everything else he's done, saying that the actual plan is to go to other jurisdictions, racially profile people, right? Figure out the kinds of people likely to be in Florida. Racially profile people living in other states and, quote, divert, and send them to a state where they didn't ask to go. That he's literally saying these people are going to want, by racially profiling, he's going to figure out people who want to come to Florida and then send them someplace that they don't want to go. That's what he's saying as his legal defense to kidnapping these people. It is pathetic. The idea that I just want to deal with this consent form thing, because I know right wingers, they signed a consent. Right. First of all, let's see what language the consent form was in, because if it wasn't in their native language, then that's right. And that's right out the door, right? A. B. If you sign the consent under false pretenses, again, the consent means nothing, and so it has to be in their real language. It has to not be fraud, right? And C. You have to show that they had any reasonable expectation that they knew what they were doing. Now, here's an important point, and again, where I really draw a distinction between the 48 people sent to Martha's Vineyard versus some of these other stunts done by, let's say, Greg Abbott. If you say that you're going to be sent to New York, if you say that you're going to be sent to Chicago, Washington, Boston even, these are large international cities, well-known internationally. I mean, you can go to other countries and people have heard of New York. People have heard of Washington. Sure. You can go to other countries and people might have friends that they know of, or people from their communities who have migrated to a Washington, to a New York. There is a reasonable expectation that you might have services, you might have communities, you might have a restaurant where they serve the same food as they do in your home community, right? You might believe all of these things are, whether or not they're actually true, you might have a reasonable expectation that such things could happen if you end up in New York or Chicago or Washington. That ain't true of Martha's Vineyard, all right? There is no reasonable expectation that you're going to find community, that you're going to find people who speak your language, that you're going to find your own, friends or other people from, from your community back in your home country, that you're going to find services. There's no expectation of any of that. So when you then pull the switcheroo, they said they thought they were going to go to Boston, but they ended up in Martha's Vineyard. It's the same state. Nah, bro. No, those are two completely different places. That's why I like the Disney World Busch Gardens analogy, right? Because those are two completely different things. And how much money, you can even make it this way, right? How much money I might spend to go to Disney World is completely different than how much money and time I'm willing to invest to go to Epcot, right? You can't. True. I can't tell the kids, we're going to Disney World, and then only take them to Epcot. That would be wrong, and people would understand that was wrong, right? So this idea that they consented, potentially not in their original language, potentially on false or fraudulent pretenses, to go to a place where they didn't end up, that consent form, if it's signed, if they have them, is probably not worth the paper it's printed on.
Chatting with Elie Mystal. And Elie, it's interesting, before you came on, Law and Crime, which is a pretty good publication, did an analysis of the potential state laws in Texas that Ron DeSantis could be charged with. And they went through the kidnapping law there, and they noted that consent cannot be given through force, intimidation, or deception. So when you're getting to the deception point here, that it's very clear, there's brochures off the charts that put that in writing. It's no longer word of mouth. Like, there was promises made in writing. And DeSantis might get lucky. There might be the buffer where they hired this company. He was not even involved in it. They just did their thing. They were promised everyone would do the right thing, and it happens. I don't see criminal liability extending. Civilly, I don't know what immunity you have as a governor for the civil lawsuits here, but if he is signed off on any of this, Ron DeSantis is going to be in trouble. But here's the twist. If he went to a GOP function tonight, he'd get a standing ovation. That's the sad reality of the world we live in. And this GOP, he would get a standing ovation. Like, we're criticizing him, and people with any compassion at all are criticizing him. If he went to a GOP event, they'd stand. You own the libs. That's right. You showed them. You use those human beings as anything but human beings. Use them as chattel. It's Karine Jean-Pierre, our friend, said it was like chattel transportation. She didn't call it slavery, but like chattel transportation behind the White House podium, and I thought it was well done.
Look, this is the reality of our time, is that this is the problem with fascism, right? It's the first step is the dehumanization of others. And what MAGAs, what Republicans have successfully done, at least for their base, is to dehumanize entire swaths and groups of people. If their MAGA leaders, if Trump, if DeSantis, if Abbott want those people dehumanized, they will go along with that now. And that is the first step towards pretty much every atrocity that's ever been committed in this world. That's what I said on the show yesterday, and on Tom Hartman today. Same thing. Like, if people can do this, if they can force a girl who's raped to carry the fetus of the rape as a term, they are capable of any horrors. There's no bottom, and that's how you get. That's the mindset that brings you to crimes against humanity. And I'm not saying there's going to be a Holocaust, but I'm saying if you can have people that can dehumanize to that point, they can do anything, horrible things. And I don't say it to scare people. I tell people to prepare you for what we could be seeing. Let's hope we never do. I cannot. And you have to understand. You have to understand the mentality of these folks. They once you dehumanize people to that level, not only are you're certainly able to murder them. That's easy for you at that point. But you're also able to deny them rights, deny them services, that their votes, for instance, are illegitimate. Like there's a whole slew of fascist behaviors that are unlocked once you have successfully dehumanized people. And when you look at these MAGA bigots cheering the coerced relocation of human beings for a political stunt, children, babies, when you see them cheering that, what you realize is that they have successfully dehumanized a group of people based solely on the color of their skin and their country of origin.
Let's play the Herschel Walker. We got 2.5 minutes, so it's perfect. So, Aaron, let's play clip number 5. This is Herschel Walker.
So I'm preparing. I'm this country boy. I'm not that smart. And he's that preacher. He's a smart man, wear these nice suits. So he's going to show up and embarrass me at the debate October the 14th. And I'm just waiting. I'll show up, and I'm going to do my best. So I'm preparing.
Okay, so that's Herschel Walker talking about the debate with Senator Warnock. He actually gave us the date, October 14th. He pimped the date there to make it exciting for people. So what's the game here in our last 2 minutes? What did Herschel Walker really lowering the bar? A guy who won a Heisman, who got Pro Bowl in the NFL. You got to learn a lot of plays to do that. You got to know a lot. It's not a game.
I'm just a poor country senatorial candidate who isn't that smart and doesn't know a lot about a lot of things. But what I do know is that I should be your senator so I can represent you in Congress, even though I don't know stuff like a nice suit would know, because apparently suits have brains now. I don't know a lot of stuff, but I know that I should be your senator so I can vote exactly like Mitch McConnell tells me to vote, because I've just told you I am too stupid to figure it out for myself. That is the game plan, and it's doing two things, right? It's one, the obvious kind of old school lower expectations, as long as he doesn't drool, or even if he does drool, as long as he doesn't trip over his own drool, he will be like, oh, Walker exceeded expectations, right? So it's just part of it is the media horse race game. But the other thing is to remind these white MAGA bigoted Southerners that, don't worry, they're not electing a black man that's going to be able to think for himself, that he is too stupid to do anything but vote in the way he is told to vote by his white superiors. Two things with one dumbass press conference.
Elie, I can't thank you enough, my friend, for breaking it down. I wanted to talk to you. We've talked about Herschel Walker before. He said a horrific comment the other day, talking about stereotypes. See, no one talked about the killing in Memphis where the white woman was killed by a black man. I'm like, wow, that is a level I'm not going to say sellout because I'm not in the community. I can't say it, but it made my blood boil because I'm like, you're just playing. You're doing Donald Trump's tweet where about black crime against white people, which was a lie. So, Elie, thanks so much. Follow Elie on Twitter, Elie NYC. Support him when they come after him. He's our buddy. Elie, it's great seeing you, brother. Thanks for being on. It's always great chatting with you. Have a good night.
Have a nice one.